Hello, and glad to have you join us on Mayokun MA. It's always a pleasure to have you discuss topical issues with us. So we look at issues that affect us, that impact us as a people, as a nation, as a community, as a group. And we bring it to the fore. We discuss through it with the hope that we'll be able to pick one or two things there, learn from it, be better citizens, be better people, and just build a knowledge base that we all can fall back on and get better each time. So today we're talking of something that would interest you. It will interest you because in recent times we no longer appreciate that part of us as a people. You only need to look into who and who are connected to you by way of, broad relation now, and you discover that we are interconnected after all. But because of politics and many rhetorics that have happened in recent past, maybe in the last 10 years, 15 years, or say 20 years, we no longer appreciate the fact that we're so connected that, if only we can build on that unity that we share, if only we can build on the things that connect us, life will be better after all. So today, join us. You will be amazed at some discoveries that we'll make. And I'm sure you'll be able to situate yourself in what we're going to discuss. And so I welcome you. And this is a way of welcoming my guest, Beatrice. Please introduce yourself. I call her Beatrice, my lovely sister. Glad to have you. I arrested her and I say, come. So go on.
Thank you for having me, Sister Mayo.
Okay.
My name is Beatrice Okeke Linus-Udo.
Okay.
That's a long one.
Yes. Okay. Slow down on the name now so we get it.
I need to still get that's my name.
Okay,
Sorry?
slow down on it. Let's get it fully. Beatrice.
Okay.
Okeke.
Okeke
Linus-Udo. This is so long. It's a long one. Now, I'll tell you the reason why I told her to announce her name, because the name is a sentence on its own. It will interest you that many of us, even me that I'm talking, my first name is from a part of Nigeria and my last name is from another part of Nigeria entirely. And that is what we want to talk about today. We want to talk about intermarriages, marriages between one ethnic group and another. We want to talk about how we have lived with each other over the years. Back in the day, we've had neighborhoods where people from all over the nation stayed as neighbors in the same house, sharing things together. What has changed? That's what we want to look at today. It's still going on, but I think we seem to pretend that it's no longer there. And so we look at what divides us rather than what brings us up. Let's start from reminiscing. Tell me your childhood experience, the neighborhood you stayed, and who made up that neighborhood or that lived with you. Share that experience. You did few days back. It's a very sweet story. Please share that experience with us, Beatrice.
Okay. I was born in. Is it okay to mention names?
It's okay, please. By all means, go ahead so people can know it's real.
Okay. I was born in Lagos. I was born in Surulere, Lagos, and what was that? Adibola Ojomo Street.
Okay.
And right upstairs, if I remember clearly, I think my memory is quite good. I remember we had Ondo neighbors upstairs, We had Ghanaian and Lagosian neighbors behind, and we had Igbo neighbors on to the left, and then we had Yoruba neighbors to the right. Years later, about 7 or 8 years afterwards, we moved to Ogba Housing Estate. You know the way it is with Lagos. New areas open, new layouts come up, and Lagos State had sold houses or let houses out to, or sold houses to ministries. And the National Orthopedic Hospital Igbobi was one of the ministries that bought houses there and gave and let out to their senior staff. My mom was a senior staff of National Orthopedic Hospital, and so she got an apartment there. Now we stayed in a block of 8 flats. To the flat that was directly opposite mine was, now that I think of his name, we had a doctor there. There was Dr. Eyeson. I think he was Ijo, if I'm not mistaken. Wow. Upstairs was, I might mention some names of people that you will know, because we ended up being in Latare together after some time. Mr. Ibaje Shomo was upstairs. The flat opposite Mr. Ibaje Shomo was an Igbo woman, also means Zemogo. Next floor was a Calabar woman, Mrs. Dem.
Okay.
Thomas floor was an Ondo couple.
Okay. So anyone listening, okay, anyone listening will say, okay, maybe because it's a quarters. Okay.
And then the topmost flat was a Yoruba couple, Ashiwajus. So, and then we had several Igbobi blocks in that block. You know, we had three blocks made up a block with a square in the middle. And afterwards, we moved. That was block 20. Then we moved to block 24. We had Igbo people upstairs. We had Dr. Koka, the Lagosian. There was an Ogun State, a couple from. I'm calling states now because if I call all Yoruba names, you might not know. But I'm trying to differentiate. People were from though they had Yoruba names. Dr. Koka was Lagosian, though he was Yoruba. Dr. Adekola was Yoruba. He was from Ondo State.
Okay. Now that we've been able,
and so on.
Okay, now that we've been able to establish that, anyone would say, okay, you happen to know their names and you stay together because it's an estate. Anybody comes there. Can you describe what relationship existed then with those neighbors? In these days, I could actually go in and come out without relating with all those that you have mentioned. That you even remember their name tells me something. You must have established some kind of relationship with them. Share that with us.
In fact, I skipped a couple. There was a Ghanaian couple upstairs, Dr. Mensah and his wife.
Okay.
Then they left. Now I remember him. And it was just wonderful to live in those places. Now I called only the Igbobi blocks, but we had Lagos State Ministry of Works and Housing, and we had neighbors in all those Ministry of Environment. And they all be quarters children, relatives. It was every other quarter coming out to play. We all came out to the square. There was a middle. First and foremost, Ogba is a waterlogged area, which is part of the problem today. So at some point, the squares, the middles had to be filled, and so we could come out there. Initially, we couldn't because it was very muddy, but afterwards we could play, and I learned to do a lot of things. We could talk. I learned to make certain foods, speak certain languages, understand certain cultures. Even really across religion, we could see there was no bias. You just accepted everybody for who they were. Christmas, we gave food. I knew Eroniyo because
Wow.
of the Muslims that were amongst us. It was just normal. You took food to them and they brought food to you.
Wow.
During holidays when our parents still had to go to work, there was a girl upstairs, Zainab. She would come downstairs. We would make moi together. We would eat. The two little children, I remember a couple, Dr. Gani Geshi's, there was a couple in the block that we stayed. They had two little boys, Olumide and Tosi, who were very picky about food. Wow. But at some point, their mother came downstairs one day and asked her, please, how does she cook bitter leaf soup, onubu? Because her boys were telling them that they did not want the food except the food in grandma's house.
Wow.
And they were like, which food exactly are you people talking about? And these were children that were very picky when it came to food. In fact, they were skinny because of it.
Wow.
But they would insist and say they wanted this and they wanted that. These are Yoruba children. I mean, let me call them that. So their mother had to learn to cook food that she knew nothing about originally. The same thing, I also learned to cook and speak and you just find that there's an intertwining factor that you see people and you just see a human being and there's no tribe and no culture when you're dealing from a child's perspective. There were no barriers. There were no barriers. There was no line. Of course, in the place of decency, there were lines you didn't cross. But in the place of true, pure relational activities, you were able to deal with people because if Zainab offended me, it was because she was a girl who did that, not because
she was from somewhere. Okay. To put this in context, you mentioned where everybody is from, or their tribe. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us what tribe you are? It's just to situate it. I know, but can you tell us?
Okay. Is it the singular or the plural?
No, let's start from the singular. We'll go to the plural. So,
okay.
Because you mentioned,
in order to fill a form, I'm Igbo in Nigeria. In order to fill a form, I'm Igbo. I'm from Abia State.
Okay, you are from Abia State, but you've been able to give us names of people from Lagos, from Ondo, from Ghana. I mean, from all walks of life. And you in fact, the way you described how you related with neighbors, their children, how they related with you, is very interesting. Do you see that still play out today in our society? If no, what do you think has gone wrong?
No, it doesn't happen anymore. And the sad part is this. I mentioned something to you the last time we spoke, and I said we need to go back to community parenting. It's just I don't know what that would mean to anybody, but I knew that there was their DPCs did not live in my block. Their father was not an Igbobi staff. He was a Lagos State Ministry of Works and Housing staff. But once we sighted their grandmother, the man's mother, coming from afar, visiting, everybody scrambled to carry mama's load.
Wow.
And then, this short sugar cane that comes from, they bring from the village, that was where I saw it. I'm not a sugar cane fan, but then she would share and give every child. And you would gladly go with it. There was no fear of anybody poisoning anybody's child or there was witchcraft. Now, I think where the problem lies here is this. We will always undermine the effect of the media on a child's thinking and growth.
Okay.
I sat the other day and I wrote, it was one of my I call them my idle moments, where I start. When I'm worried about something, I go back into my childhood. It's my safe space. And I just decided I was going to write all the programs I listened to on radio and watched from my childhood. I wrote over 200, by the way.
Wow.
But I looked at all those programs, and yes, I did. I wrote over 200 programs, radio,
TV,
and TV combined. Yes, I did. I can reel them out to you. Trust me.
Wow. And please put your hand. Yeah, before we finish, I would love to actually hear some of them. But I don't want you to lose the.
I will. I'll
Okay.
send them to you.
Okay.
Because and then I realized that we watched healthy programs. The only scary thing I remember, the only two scary things I watched as a child, which I had an option of was not watching, was Hammer House of Horror and the afternoon they aired Pot of Life. Oh, I did not sleep. I watched it. I got back from school for everybody else, so I had the privilege of watching it at 4:30 or thereabout when Channel 5 aired it. And so when they were airing it in the evening, I dodged and just went inside. Until I wanted them to get their full measure of scare by themselves. Now, why am I saying that? People were mindful of the things they put on TV. Look at Pot of Life. Is it any scary any compared to the things they started doing at some point? Because you watch things and then you see everybody becomes a bad person around you.
Wow.
We had wholesome things. I loved Cockroach at Dawn before I dreamed of coming to Jos. Before I ever dreamed of coming to Jos, I loved the peace I could see in Cockroach at Dawn. I loved the idea that people could live like this in life. And so you'll be surprised that the things that have shaped your mind now people have watched. Plus the fact that, I don't like it. I don't like extremes. So when you see something, do not take anything hook, line, and sinker. Oyibo people, sorry, let me go in that direction now, brought certain things to TV. And you saw people live. Be careful the things you crave. Be careful the things you look for. How to live. You want to live on your own so that you don't have people pestering you. People pestering you could be one extreme. Yes, they're pestering you. People could be just coming around you out of concern and genuine love. Now, you want to copy an Oyibo person who lives in one small apartment and doesn't have
from people?
chance of going downstairs to play with the neighbor's children. How does that person end? I don't know. I don't know if you get what
I get you.
How does that person end?
I get you.
They start there and they end in old people's homes.
Lonely. Very lonely in their old ages.
So when I look at people, when I tell people, be careful the things you crave out of, and then I have always been conscious of this. Be mindful of what you call civilization. What you call civilization might be retrogression.
Wow.
You take yourself back into a time where you truly do not want to be, but because you don't want to appear like you're different from there's nothing wrong with being different. I do not like tea, hot beverages up till now, but I like the idea that we could make tea in a big jug and everybody would share into cups.
Wow.
I grew up in a house where I had, in a very large family, I mean, to have 7 children was large in those days. So I had 6 sisters. 6.
Wow.
So tell me how I want to think suicidal thoughts when somebody is constantly, we're running into each other in the house. And I lived in a 3-bedroom apartment, so it wasn't like there was smallness, little space.
So
then you cannot find yourself alone. It's not possible. It's not possible. So you look, when the idle mind is the devil's workshop indeed.
True.
But people don't know it. Your mind is idle when there is nothing moving around and you want your space. It's okay. I like a lot of peace and quiet.
There is no way.
Careful.
In a house where you have siblings, where you have cousins. I grew up in a setting where, yes, we had enough room, but we had cousins. We had people who we were not even related to come stay with us. We had big aunties that I really, even till today, I can't say this was how we were related. Some of them, it was when I grew up, I discovered that, really, they were not really related to us, but they were with us, they were around. And what you said,
now you understand.
Yeah, what you said points me to something.
You have 7 girls, friends were falling in.
Cousins would come and visit.
you have where you have squatters and then you have floaters and you have hangers. Friends, some of the people who come into the house now for Christmas to my mom's house are friends of friends. We knew whose friend was who. We knew, oh, my elder. I have 4 elder ones and 2 younger ones. I'm number 5. And my friends, they knew my friends. I knew their friends. It was not, there was respect, there was age, but there was no barrier to certain things. Because I always tell people that I'm blessed to have lived 2 decades before me, or 2 generations before me, and then mine. My parents, my elder ones,
to have lived with them.
And of course, I have my younger ones to also look to that. I have advantage of. So I put it this way: I've lived across 4 generations. That's the way I want to see it. Because you have your parents to learn from.
You have your grandchildren.
Even there's a slight difference in the thinking pattern. Then there's yours because there's the age difference, and then there's a younger person because they're also thinking different from everybody else. So you have the advantage of living across those lives right in front of you. Imagine how do you get that when you're alone? How do you do that?
Or when you are suspicious of the next person, how do you get that? Because even if you are not alone, once there is suspicion, once you start thinking that one grandma is a witch, and that should not come and visit anymore, and that you think that one auntie is pestering and should not come there anymore, and you think that some cousins should, they are interlopers and they should not come around anymore, that you're more comfortable in your own space. Those things bring suspicion. And then what you don't know is, while you think you have your peace, you are actually also kind of edging yourself into loneliness in the future. Let me quickly share something with yours, and that's about when you shared about the power of media, what we get exposed to. I recall in if my memory serves me right, it should be early 2000. I can't recall which year particularly now. I recall that there was an incident, I think around Ojelegba, where somebody stole a baby. That was a time that it was rampant then. It was terrible that they were stealing babies and all that. It started then, but thankfully within 1 or 2 years it was nipped in the bud. But I recall that many cases were being reported, but this particular one did it, and he got caught. And they actually burnt him alive. I recall sitting in front of the TV and seeing it for the first time. Yes, there was a mob action because people were tired of hearing stories like that. As justified as it is for him to have been caught, the mob action was not justified. But what actually broke me down that day was it was televised. Yes, a part of it was covered, but we could see what was happening. And I recall I was telling people there that day, I was telling them that when I was growing up, it was an anathema for people to see dead bodies. I recall that maybe the very first time I set my eyes on, I was grown. If anybody died and they were doing lying in state, they won't even allow teenagers go there. They won't allow, because it was like, no, you shouldn't be here. But when it has gotten to a time that it's so normal for us to even drive past a dead body and not feel anything. You understand? And that tells us the power of social media. No, the power of media. But now we even have the social media. The social media has even made it worse now, because there is no limit to what can be captured and shared because someone wants to trend. I just wanted to add that to the exposure to some of the content. Some of the content that we see now is telling our children not to be trusting. Yes, we know that some things are happening, but it's actually telling us to be suspicious of each other. All right, having established that, let's talk about even locations where we stay. Give us a sense of, places you've stayed apart from Lagos, and what that has what lessons you've learned from transversing the nation. Give us a sense.
Okay. Like I said earlier, I was born in Lagos, but when it was time to go to school, I had to go to Ondo State. And
You're from Abia.
okay, I'll do major places. I had to go to Ondo State, and then work has taken me to Enugu, has taken me to Maiduguri,
Wow.
has taken me to Borno,
Wow.
to Jalingo, to
Wow.
Adamawa, to Rivers, to where's this? Of course, has brought me to Plateau. I've been to Abuja. I've been to Ebonyi State. I think it's easier for me to count the states I've been to than the ones I have not been to. And one thing I can tell you is this: everybody is the same everywhere.
Wow.
Of course, I learned not to do tribe growing up, but the older I get, the more I realize how foolish it is when people go tribal.
Wow.
Now, let me mention this. There was this little girl, an only child, that grew up in the same block with me. The Lagosian couple I mentioned, they have only one daughter.
Okay.
And the woman had a young friend who had one son, Toyosi, if I remember his name. Toyosi used to come and stay as a baby with the Cokers. There was also the cousin to Tomi, who was Peter, a young boy also. Of course, by virtue of Tomi being the leader of the pack, all of them usually ended up in my apartment. So if Tomi comes up, everybody is throwing up to grandma's house. There's no controversy. When you move, everybody moves to grandma's house. And at a point,
your mom is grandma, right?
Running a daycare because every neighbor would just come and drop their child and
in your apartment.
They just drop their child. The children will come and play and go. And you will not make those children leave because there will be baking going on, there will be cooking, there will be TV, there will be songs, there will be... I have always liked writing and rhyming with children and all that. So there was always something to do in grandma's house. Now, these are children that when I move away from the children and I get to where I've had people... Let me tell you something very interesting. There is no place that I go to that anybody guesses my tribe right.
Because of your disposition.
They say she's an Onyofe Manu.
What does that mean?
When I'm in the West, they say I'm an Omoyibo. When I'm in the North, they say I'm in Yamiri. That it does not honor. You understand? They don't ever guess it right. But can I surprise you? These people now go ahead and speak in the very language of where I come from and I understand.
Wow.
And I'm looking at them and I'm smiling.
If only they knew.
I've had people call me stupid and foolish right to my face and did not know understand what they were saying. And I've tested people, and there's a particular guy who I will never forget. He was in school with us, but was older, and we used to call him Brother Dele. And I'm like, Brother Dele, what happened here? And Brother Dele will tell you to the very last dot the truth and nothing but the truth. Then I will say thank you and I will go away. Till I left school, Brother Dele never discovered that I understood Yoruba.
Wow.
But he was one honest person. I met another young lady like that. And when people were saying something different, in the house I lived in Ogun State, and when people were saying something different, she would tell me she was part Yoruba and she was a third wife to somebody close to her, and she would tell me exactly in as best as she could in broken pidgin what she would just cut and join it together and tell me exactly what had happened. So let me tell you the advantage of that. I knew the truth. I knew they were saying what was right. The day I was to leave where I was, I have not set my eyes on her since then till now as I speak.
Wow.
But because of the kind of person she turned out to be, the day I was leaving, I called her. Her daughter, Mama Miriam. Her daughter's name was Miriam. The child was a bit of She was a bit slow. As at 2, she couldn't walk yet, and she couldn't talk clearly. So she became I just I like children. There's an honesty and innocence about them that you can't get anywhere else. So because she couldn't talk clearly, the babbles she would make, I would say it right back to her and smile. She didn't used to play with anybody else, but she started playing with me, and sometimes she would come to my door and knock and say "I" at my door, and I would open my door for her. So the day I was leaving, I had heard some other persons. This is not film now. I had heard some other persons planning something against Mama Miriam.
Wow.
So I called her. I'm telling you the truth, I lie not to you, sis. I called her and I said, Mama Miriam, come, I want to see you. Then I picked the Bible and said, this Bible I'm showing to you, swear that you will not tell anybody that it is I who told you what you should do about this. He said she did. Then I switched to you, but she almost passed out.
Wow. Wow.
I'm telling you, I switched to you, but she fell off her chair. She was sitting on a stool. She fell off her stool.
All this while she didn't even know that you.
Talking to you.
Wow.
She didn't know was her 2 elder wives, her Yales, were plotting against her. 2 Alajas. She was a Christian. She was not a Muslim, and their husband was a Muslim. And I called her. I said, you know, you're jumping about with these people. I said, Mama Miriam, oh, Mware.
Wow. She was like, that's even deep.
Fell off her seat.
That's deep Yoruba.
And she looked at me. By the time I made a 3rd sentence, she started crying. And I said, if you know what's good for you, pick your child and get out of this place.
Wow.
Unfortunately, he eventually left, but I learned that child died.
Oh dear.
But she never went back up there. Well, it was just as well, unfortunately, because I don't know, she seemed like it was something that was a hindrance for her at some point, because the child couldn't even go to school, the child couldn't progress, so it was like, I don't know if I should switch to Yoruba at this point.
Because our audiences are divergent, so let's stick with English so that at least.
You have to translate for them.
Yeah.
You translate because.
But
to put it.
I understand. I mean, I get a sense of what you are passing across. You've. How many languages do you speak? How many Nigerian languages do you speak? Give us a sense. I know.
I speak all the major Nigerian languages.
Wow. Because it's interesting. You are from the southeast. You grew up. You were born and bred in the southwest. Now you live in the north, and you have even traveled around the north, some northern states, and even basically even more states in Nigeria. How is the culture like? Are we different after all? Are we different after all? Because what we hear now emphasizes more our differences than what we have in common. Are we different after all? Are Nigerians different after all?
No, we're not. No, we're not different at all. You see, people see what they choose to see. If you check yourself, there's some things that if you're in a good mood and some things happen to you, do you know you take it better than when you're in a bad mood? It just aggravates.
You're so right.
How you feel.
So right.
It's the same way that if you have a mindset about Naso, then they do. That is how they behave. You go there. I have some of the people that have helped me most in my life are Hausa people.